What happens when charm designed to disarm collides with a host who cannot be shaken? What happens when a guest walks in expecting deferentially to find the ground shifting beneath her? This wasn't just a morning talk show. What unfolded on the Tamron Hall show was a duolingo versus ingredient. It left the audience breathless. The stage glowed with its usual warmth. Studio 6A, humming with expectation. The audience leaned forward, eyes fixed as the cameras panned across eager faces. At the center sat Tamron Hall, poised and elegant, every gesture measured, every pause deliberate. On paper, the interview was meant to be a celebration, Meghan Markle promoting her latest philanthropic project. But from the moment she entered, the air carried an unmistakable charge. "Meghan, thank you for joining us," Tamron began, her voice warm but steady, the tone of a seasoned journalist who misses nothing. "You've been in the headlines quite a lot recently. Before we dive into your new work, how are you and Harry doing? The public, as you know, is always curious." It was a soft opener, gentle, almost sympathetic. But Meghan's eyes flickered sharp. Guarded bare, she produced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We're wonderful, Tamron. Better than ever. Honestly, I find it tiresome that strangers think they have the right to constantly dissect my marriage. Maybe people should focus on their own relationships instead of mine." A ripple of unease crossed the room. The smile hadn't hidden the edge in her voice. Tamron's expression didn't shift. Fair enough. But some would say that openest way you and Harry have shared your personal experience invites that curiosity. Do you see it that way? Meghan leaned back, her posture regal, every word rehearsed. "I don't see it as openness. I see it as setting the record straight when others distort the truth. Quit when you're attacked relentlessly, you defend yourself. That's not an invitation for gossip, it's survival." The audience clapped politely, though some exchanged wary glances. And yet, Tamron continued evenly. "The rumors don't seem to fade. Some say Harry wrestles with the decision to step away from royal duty. Others speak of tension with his family. How do you navigate those challenges?" Meghan's smile sharpened into something closer to a smirk. "You know, Tamron, I think it's ridiculous how people cling to this idea of tension. Harry and I are fine. If anything, it sounds more like projection, Mabe. It's the media that can't let go, not Harry." This time, the bite in her words drew a murmur from the audience. Tamron, unflinching, shifted her notes with calm precision. "Let's talk about the royal family itself. Looking back, do you think things could have played out differently? Many suggest tradition, culture, even history may have shaped the outcome." Meghan's gaze hardened. "What people don't understand is that I entered that family with the best intentions. But you can't force an institution to modernize. When it refuses to change, the problem was never me. The problem was them. And if people can't see that's their ignorance, not mine." The room froze. Her words landed like glass, shattering. "That's a strong statement." Tamron replied softly, her voice even but edged with steel. "It's the truth," Meghan said sharply before forcing another smile. "I don't sugarcoat. Maybe that's why people have an issue with May won't play along with outdated traditions that serve no one." The audience buzzed, caught between admiration and discomfort. Tamron let the silence breathe, then pivoted with the elegance of a blade. "You had a successful acting career before your marriage. Do you miss that chapter of your life?" Meghan tilted her head, disdain curling at the edges of her expression. "Honestly, acting feels trivial compared to what I do now. I've outgrown Hollywood. Scripts written by people who don't understand the world we go back to something so shallow. When I'm working on things that matter." Polite applause followed, thinner this time. Tamron's composure held, but her eyes' flash shed caught the dismissal. "So, You don't believe your acting career shaped the platform you have today? Of course not, Meghan scoffed, waving a hand. My platform exists because of who I am and what I stand for, not because of some TV role I left behind years ago. And there it was, the crack in the polished veneer. The arrogance, the refusal to acknowledge the foundation beneath her. Tamron leaned forward, voice velvet, but unyielding. Well, she said with a subtle smile, our viewers may feel differently about that. The audience erupted scattered applause, louder now, charged, as Meghan's eyes flickered, scanning the room for approval that no longer seemed assured. The tension was undeniable. What had started as a cordial exchange had evolved into something sharper, something raw. Even the hum of the studio lights seemed louder, though it was really the silence, the charged air between Tamron and Meghan that filled the room. Tamron folded her hands neatly over her notes, her smile unwavering. Meghan, she said softly, let's speak for a moment about the late Queen. Many admired your relationship with Her Majesty. What was that dynamic truly like? For the briefest moment, Meghan's expression softened, almost wistful, then hardened again like steel. She crossed her legs, leaned back, and spoke with a cool edge. I respected the Queen, of course. But respect only goes so far when the entire institution is stacked against you. People like to romanticize our relationship as though it was something special. The truth, I was always treated as an outsider, and frankly, I think the Queen could have done more to stop it. Gasps rippled through the studio. The weight of criticizing the late monarch, a figure still revered by millions, was not lost on the audience. Tamron did not blink. Her tone remained smooth, her words measured. Some might call that a harsh assessment, especially given the public appearances where the two of you seemed close. Do you think, perhaps, you're reinterpreting that relationship through the lens of everything that followed? Meghan's head snapped toward her, her voice cutting, laced with superiority. No, Tamron. I think I know my own life better than anyone else. It's amusing when journalists who weren't there try to psychoanalyze my relationships. With all due respect, you don't know what I lived through. I do. A sharp exhale from the audience followed her dismissiveness, landing like a slap. Tamron, fortress-like, absorbed it without flinching. I don't doubt that, she said evenly. But you've also chosen to speak publicly about those experiences. And when public figures share their stories, it's natural for the press to ask questions, especially when those stories seem to shift. Meghan scoffed, shaking her head. Here we go with that tired line again. Stories shifting. Maybe things evolve when you reflect on them. Or would you prefer, I repeat, the same script, just to keep people like you comfortable? The audience murmured, tension simmering. Meghan was no longer the polished Duchess. She was barbed, defensive, daring Tamron to push. Tamron accepted the dare. Let's talk about the move to America, she said, her tone steady but weighted, steering the conversation deeper. Saw it as a fresh start. Others saw it as abandoning duty. How do you respond to those critics? Meghan straightened, her voice clipped. Critics will always exist. I don't care what they think. We left a toxic environment. We chose freedom. And if people can't understand that, maybe they're trapped in the same outdated systems we escaped. I won't apologize for choosing happiness over a crumbling monarchy. There it was, again, the disdain, the condescension. Tamron's eyes narrowed just slightly, the only sign of pressure applied. Do you think some of that disdain for the monarchy comes from personal conflicts rather than systemic issues? Meghan's lips curled into a smirk. Are you suggesting I left because of grudges? Please, anyone with half a brain can see the bigger picture. This isn't about me being petty, Tamron. It's about injustice. But I wouldn't expect someone outside that world to understand its layers. An unmistakable put-down. The audience stirred uneasily, some whispering, others stiff in their seats. Tamron inclined her head, calm but cutting. You speak of injustice. And yet when we look at your life now, the Netflix deals, the book, the podcast, many would say you've benefited enormously from the institution you criticize. Can you see why people call that contradictory? Meghan's tone rose, sharp and impatient. Oh, please. The obsession with money and deals again. We built opportunities. Because we had no choice, we were cut off. What were we supposed to do? Live in poverty. Disappear quietly so people could stay comfortable with us failing outside their precious monarchy. Tamron's reply was surgical. No one expects you to disappear. But there is a difference between survival and empire building. And the criticism comes not from success, but from the narrative of struggle. Too many, those two stories don't quite align. Meghan's irritation flared. She leaned forward, her tone mocking. Maybe that's because people prefer the fairy tale, the poor little duchess fighting the big bad palace. But life isn't a fairy tale, Tamron. It's messy. It's complicated. And frankly, most people aren't smart enough to grasp that. The insult hit the air like a stone. Boos, gasps, and uneasy laughter erupted. Tamron's composure held, though her patience had thinned to steel. Not smart enough, she repeated, voice low, deliberate. So when people question your story, when journalists ask for clarity or answer is that they're simply not intelligent enough to understand. Yes, Meghan snapped, her mask on. That's exactly what I'm saying. People don't get it. They never will. And I'm tired of pretending otherwise. The silence that followed was suffocating. Even the cameras seemed to pause, capturing. The moment a carefully crafted media image crumbled into raw arrogance, Tamron leaned back in her chair. Her voice soft but edged with finality. Well, that is quite the statement. Scattered applause followed a knees, fractured. Meghan, flushed and defensive, crossed her arms tightly, daring anyone to challenge her further. But Tamron wasn't finished. She closed her folder with deliberate slowness, the snap of paper punctuating the moment. Her gaze never left Meghan's. And, "We'll pick up right there," she said evenly, "'cause I think our viewers deserve to see what happens when strong words are met with accountability." Asterisk, the camera locked on Meghan, jaw tight, stare, unyielding. Viewers at home instinctively leaned closer, sensing the collision course ahead. The studio air was thick, vibrating with tension. Meghan's arms folded across her chest, her posture less relaxed than defiant, as though bracing herself against attack. The audience had gone still, restless, feeling the shift. This was no longer an interview. It was a duel. Tamron, composed as ever, shuffled her notes with deliberate calm. Then, with the faintest smile, one that looked less like kindness and more like the glint of steel, she began. Meghan, her voice was smooth, steady. "We've spoken about the monarchy, about your departure. But I'd like to turn now to something more personal, your relationship with the Prince and Princess of Wales." The audience tensed. Everyone knew the subject. Was radioactive? Meghan's jaw set hard. "What about them?" she snapped, her tone already sharp. Unruffled, Tamron tilted her head. "There have been countless reports over the years of tension between you and Catherine. The public has long admired her composure and sense of duty. Some have even described it as rivalry. Did you feel overshadowed by her?" Meghan gave a brittle laugh, one that didn't reach her eyes. "Overshadowed? Hardly. I wasn't competing with her. I brought something different. Diversity, modernity, a global perspective. If anything, Catherine was the one scrambling to keep up with me." The arrogance in her tone landed heavily. A ripple ran through the audience. Uneasy murmurs exchanged. Glances. Tamron's face betrayed nothing, but her voice sharpened slightly. "And yet, the public image suggests the opposite. Catherine's popularity rose as yours declined. Did that bother you? Meghan leaned forward, eyes flashing. What? Bothers me is how the media pits women against each other, as if we can't exist in the same space without comparison. Catherine had protection. I didn't. That's the only reason she's adored. Without that shield, she wouldn't last a week. Gasps burst from the audience. Tamron clasped her hands, her tone gentle but edged. So you're saying, Catherine's popularity is manufactured, a palace construct? Of course it is, Meghan shot back, her words cutting. Do you think people genuinely connect with someone who barely speaks? It's branding, Tamron, nothing more. The insult lingered like smoke. Even the most supportive faces in the audience looked unsettled now. Tamron let the silence breathe before pressing further. Some might say that sounds less like critique and more like envy. Is it difficult to watch William and Catherine thrive in the role you and Harry left behind? Meghan smirked venomous this time. Envy. Don't make me laugh. I walked away by choice. If they want to live like puppets, smiling for cameras until the day they die, that's their business. I'm above that. The room reacted instantly. Gasps, murmurs, a few defiant claps from scattered supporters. But the tide was turning. Tamron leaned forward, her voice lower, deliberate. You say you're above it, and yet you continue to speak about them. Compare yourself to them. Frame yourself against them. If you're truly past it, why keep circling? Back for the first time, Meghan faltered. Her lips parted, but no words came. She darted a glance toward the audience, searching for reassurance. None came. When she spoke again, her tone was sharper, harsher. You know what, Tamron? I don't owe you justification. You sit there with your notes, pretending to understand a life you've never lived. You weren't hunted by tabloids. You weren't trapped by protocols. Don't you dare lecture me about fixation. The tension was electric. The audience froze, caught between discomfort and fascination. Tamron raised a single eyebrow, her calm cutting deeper than any raised voice. I'm not lecturing you, Meghan. I'm observing what millions see. And what they see is a woman who cannot stop measuring herself against the very family she claims to have left behind. The blow landed. Meghan's cheeks flushed, her composure cracked. She leaned back, arms folded tight again, her silence almost defiant. Tamron shifted in her seat, her voice now heavier with intent. Let's step back, because this isn't only about family. This is about your narrative. You've painted yourself as a disruptor, a voice of change, someone breaking free from oppression. And yet, at every turn, your words circle back to the palace, to the monarchy, to comparisons. Some would say your identity is defined entirely by the institution you denounce. A wave of applause rolled through the audience, soft but unmistakably supportive of Tamron. Meghan's response came quickly, but there was a faint tremor beneath the surface. That's not true. I have my own voice, my own work, my own causes. I don't need them to define me. Tamron's eyes narrowed slightly, her tone calm but final. Then perhaps it's time to prove it. Because right now, too many, your platform exists not because of who you are, but because of who you married. And that distinction matters. The studio fell silent. Meghan's face hardened, her lips pressed into a thin, brittle line. She looked as though she wanted to lash out, to strike with words, but none came. For the first time all morning, it was clear Tamron had cornered her, and everyone watching knew it. The studio lights blazed overhead. But the heat in the room came from the women facing each other. The silence between them stretched taut like wire. Meghan sat rigid, arms wrapped tightly across her chest, her chin lifted in stubborn defiance. Across from her, Tamron Hall lowered her notes onto the table with deliberate grace. The gesture almost ceremonial, a declaration that this was no longer an interview, but a reckoning. Meghan Tamron began, her voice soft but edged with steel. You keep insisting you've moved on, that you're above the monarchy, that you've found your own path. But everything about your presence here today proves the opposite. You are still defined entirely by the crown. The words landed like a hammer. Meghan's expression faltered, a crack in the mask. That's not fair, she shot back, her voice rising. I've worked tirelessly, my causes, my projects, my brand. I've built something global, Tamron. I am more than Tamron. Cut her off, her tone tightening. More than just Prince Harry's wife. Because that, Meghan, is what it looks like to the world. Without Harry, without his family name, without the palace you rail against, you wouldn't be sitting here on my show. There would be no Netflix. Deal. No podcast, no spotlight to cling to. The audience gasped. A wave of noise rolling through the studio. Meghan's eyes widened, then narrowed with fury. How dare you reduce me like that? I had a career before Harry. I was an actress. I had recognition. Tamron leaned forward, gaze unflinching, voice cutting through Meghan's protest like glass. Recognition. Meghan, you were a supporting character on a cable drama. You weren't a global figure until you married into that family. That's the truth. And the public knows it, even if you refuse to. Meghan's lips trembled, but Tamron pressed on, her voice rising with authority. You. Talk about being silenced, about being victimized. But let's be honest. You've profited every step of the way. You wanted the prestige without the responsibility, the titles without the duty. You wanted to be treated like Diana, adored, untouchable. But Diana put in the work. The name sent a flash of outrage across Meghan's face. Don't you dare compare me to her, she snapped, her voice shaking. I'm not comparing, Tamron said evenly. I'm contrasting. Diana had flaws, but she had authenticity. She served. She fought for causes without constantly making herself the center. You, Meghan, have turned every hardship into an opportunity to brand, to sell, to script yourself as the eternal victim. The audience stirred, torn between claps and shocked whispers. Meghan sat frozen, her face flushed crimson. And let's address what no one wants to say out loud, Tamron continued relentlessly. Your obsession with Catherine and William. You call it media obsession, palace favoritism, but the truth is simpler. You resent them. You envy the respect they command, the steadiness they represent, the love they receive. And you can't stand it. That broke her. Meghan's eyes brimmed with tears, her bravado collapsing. She shook her head, whispering, That's not true. That's not true.